Hey folks, Eli Jaffa here, coming at you with an unboxing video for the Butterfly IQ. This is something I've been waiting for an extremely long time, and lucky for you guys, I just got it in the mail today, and I watch an obscene amount of YouTube, so this is my best attempt at an unbox therapy style video. Let's get to it. Keeping in mind that I have exercised almost more restraint than could be expected of anyone in my position to not open this box. So this is genuine first impressions, actual true live unboxing. This is extremely exciting. Now, fair warning, I have already demoed a unit previously, so this is not a true first impression, this is a first impression of the production model. So in the overhead, oh my gee, look at that beautifulness. Probe numero uno, probe numero dos. Remainder of the box, a lot of padding. Shipping label, awesome. Out the door. All right. One for my very good friend, and another for myself. So, let's see what we've got in the box. Very nice packaging. The first test unit that I got to check out a couple of weeks ago came in a very nice Pelican case, and this is some pretty slick branding, I gotta say. All right. So, in the box, Butterfly IQ, the probe, quick start guide, charging base, which is a wireless charging setup, a cable and a wall adapter made for iPhone only, and here basically we're just seeing iPhone 6S and up. So older generations not going to be supported, as we kind of already knew. Personal ultrasound, love it. Okay, let's get to it. Safety first, kids. All right, let's see here. Whew. Gotta love that beautiful choice of colors. All right. And now we have the box. And let's see how this bad boy opens. Oh, this is very nice. Nice and slow, little suction action there for you. Oh yeah. Woo! Oh, I love that new probe smell. Whew. That is delightful. So, here we have the probe. Very nicely presented. Vacuum formed plastic. Not terrible. All right, couple of wires there. We'll put that aside for the moment, even though I'm desperate. Getting started, download the IQ app from the App Store, connect the IQ to your iPhone, apply gel, and begin scanning. Note, your IQ will get warm during normal use. The charger underneath, great. Let's see here, and usual tech supplies. Put that aside for later. Very reminiscent of an iPhone unboxing, to be totally honest. The experience is quite similar and very familiar, which I'm sure a lot of end users will appreciate. So, right here we have the charging base, the wireless charging base, a normal USB-A to micro USB adapter for that, and the charging base, which looks very much like a quick charge adapter, and we will plug that in a minute. Alright, so charging up the charge plate. This is a very nice little feature right here. Little LED light strip right around the edge, tells you the charging status, presumably blue for fully charged and red for charging, so this one is sitting here ready to go. So we'll put that to the side for a moment. Let's take a look at the device. So the first thing that strikes you about this probe, and it always has, is the heft, the weight of it. It's a very substantial probe. It's kind of striking, much more than you would expect a normal probe to be, even one on a traditional system. And certainly if you've used the Lumify system, it's going to be very striking. A lot of the current smartphone tech, a lot of folks will describe the fit and finish as a premium device. This feels like a premium device. It's got some heft to it, it's got some weight, and it also is just more physically substantial. I mean, it's a lot thicker, and the probe head is a lot thicker as well. Now, having used this one before, I can tell you that the ultrasound plane is almost certainly going to be right in the middle. And so you're going to have to take that into account if you're doing procedures, especially IV guidance or needle biopsies, if that's your thing, or if you're going to be using this to do, say, nerve blocks. Certainly when you're in plane, you're going to want to align that, and they've helpfully provided a little bit of a probe mark right in the middle on each side, all four sides, so you can kind of get a sense of that, and of course your probe marker right there. But just keep in mind that you're going to have to go a little bit of distance before you actually get to the central plane. Now, I thought that was going to be an issue initially, but actually it turns out that wasn't as much of an issue, and I adapted fairly quickly. I've placed 1 or 2 IVs with this device, and it actually didn't take as much getting used to as I expected. So it's not going to be a significant challenge. I think you'll adapt to it pretty quickly, especially if you're using it routinely. One of the main concerns I had with the probe as it was during the demo testing phase was the insertion of the probe's wire. Now, the cable felt very flimsy. It felt like just a smaller gauge wire, and where it came out, there was a really, there wasn't much of flex at all. And so, you know, this whole big block right here to offset the tension on the cord was really nice, but then ultimately it ended up being the same issue. It just shunted it back a couple of inches. In this device, it looks like they've actually, if you can't see it, maybe against my pasty white skin, you can see a little better, or hey, against the wall there, that's even better. So there's a couple of ridges here, and it kind of gives it that like little bit of an accordion feel to it. So they've got a little bit of flex in there. Now, the thing I like about the Lumify probes is that they have a detachable cable, and so you just pull back a little sheath, and then it's a micro USB plug-in, and that's a really nice aspect of it. Unfortunately, this is not the same setup, which I was kind of hoping they would go for. We'll see how it holds up under continuous use. I expect most folks, like myself, are just going to, you know, wind it up like this and then place it back in their white coat pocket when they're done using it for next use, and then pull it out and plug it in. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be a fairly substantial thing. It may stick out of a lot of white coat pockets. That's probably fine. If you're more into the e-figs with the cargo pockets, you'll probably be okay. But like I said, we'll have to just see how it holds up. And another nice little feature, just a kind of, you know, they're always thinking of us with these small details, just a little attachment piece, just so when you curl it up, you can kind of stick it to something, and it mostly holds its circular shape. I'll have to play around with that and see. Obviously, with the Lightning connector, only going to be able to connect to an iPhone, which they've already said very much. So let's bust out the iPhone and see what we're dealing with. All right. So lucky for you guys, today my cup truly runneth over. I have in front of me both the Butterfly IQ with an iPhone 7, as well as my phased array Philips Lumify with my current daily driver, my Pixel 2, my Google Pixel 2. So I actually get to do a side-by-side comparison for you, so lucky you guys. All right, let's plug these bad boys in and see how it looks. So Butterfly IQ going into the iPhone 7, immediately notices, lights up, unlock phone to use accessories. So open that up. Would like to communicate with the Butterfly IQ probe? Absolutely. Allow, immediately loads into the app, and give it a second. There we go, investigational device. Okay, register your IQ. Go for it, your IQ has been registered. That was really fast, and that was exceptional. So you'll notice this app is controlled just in a very familiar fashion to most folks who have been using any kind of smartphone for a while. So you'll notice just touching and pulling immediately controls the depth when it's up and down, and then gain to the right and left, and you'll notice that I can get the gain pretty high, and you'll notice that this is set initially to a what looks like a somewhere between a curvilinear phased array. So in the OB setting, just because that's apparently the last setting I had, you can select a preset right there, and you'll notice that there are quite a few. Everything from abdomen and separate deep abdomen, bladder, cardiac deep, fast exam specific preset, MSK, nerve, OB, small organ, soft tissues, vascular access, vascular carotid, and vascular deep vein. This is just phenomenal. So let's take a look at the small organ kind of setting. Auto freeze has been engaged. Once you stop using it, it detects that and automatically freezes out. And you'll notice that there's just a little bit, we turn up the gain here to just kind of get a sense of the pattern. There's a little bit of a spread of the ultrasound waves, even in the small organ. When you get down to about 2 centimeters, it kind of almost washes out completely. But when you get up to about 6 centimeters, which appears to be the maximum, it does have a little bit of a spread. If we do soft tissue, gonna probably be almost, actually that's a true linear, it looks like. It's not quite. A little bit less depth there. And we can get a midline guide right there, or we can close it out, which is great. And then we can go back to, you can slide that. That's pretty sweet. Okay. Some notable things. So modes available: B mode, M mode, color Doppler. No pulse wave Doppler or spectral Doppler at this point. I don't know if they're going to build that in later. I know that the Philips Lumify has not had that available, at least not on their phased array probes, but we'll see what the future holds. And then cardiac, obviously we're going to be looking at more of a phased array traditional footprint. So that's what that looks like. Yep, you got a real tight footprint there. And then we've got about, about 25 centimeters of depth all told. And then let's see if we pull it over the cardiac deep. It's going to give us, if we maximize our gain, just so we can see, only 25 centimeters as well, but I imagine that the deep field is going to be a little bit accentuated. I'm not sure exactly what the difference in those presets is. So pulling from the edges does nothing, unfortunately. I was hoping that they would build that in, but not so. Hit this little symbol up here. These are the current images from this study. You can associate a patient in the middle of your study, which is a really nice feature that's been a little bit difficult in terms of the implementation on the Lumify. You can add a study description, so you can just kind of tell yourself a little bit about it, and then you can go back to scanning. You can hit your own little face. You can see that handsome mug right there, and this brings you over to your archive. So I've already set this up during my demo time, so you can see a bunch of scans that I did, and you can just kind of get a sense of those. These are all stored in the cloud, not on my personal device, as it turns out. You can go to your settings and you can change some things around, so you can see your IQ, what the power is, the power firmware, presumably, the processor firmware, the controller, and the bootloader, and all that stuff in my unique device. Oh, that's so pretty. All right, and it's up to date currently, 81% charged. Great. There's a bunch of stuff here. You can change some presets, and it gives you presets for all the separate kind of exams. Cardiac, you can kind of switch the left-right probe orientation. And looking at the default settings for color flow and so forth. But most of those you can change in real time as well. It would be really nice to just have like an all told comprehensive settings. So for things like probe marker orientation, things like that, that'd be really awesome. But unfortunately not going to be implemented in this phase of the app, it looks like. But we'll see what happens over time. And you can get notifications by push or by email if somebody comments on your stuff or posts a mention of you in one of their cases. There's a user manual and a couple of PDFs, and that's that. So then coming back to scanning, let's just real quick comparison with the Lumify. Let's see how this collectively looks. Knocking stuff over, as is my way, no worries. So the other thing you'll notice is that this is actually a USB-C connector, which is connected to my Pixel. There's also the standard cable comes with a micro USB for most Android devices, and this is the feature I was really mentioning. So you get this little cap off, and then you actually pull off, and that's a little micro USB right there. So This is a really helpful feature. If you hose the wire, it turns out you don't have to buy a whole new device. You can actually just send them the cable, and then they'll send you a new one back. When I upgraded to my Pixel, I had a micro USB to USB-C dongle, and they were helpful enough to just immediately send me a USB-C cable before I took my trip to Africa, and used it pretty heavily over there. So that was really nice. Good and bad, huge cable. The micro USB cable is much, much shorter than this. And for whatever reason, when they made the change to the USB-C cable, it became much longer. I'm not really sure why. It honestly kind of gets in the way at this point. If I was doing procedures and I had a mounted device, maybe that would be helpful. But honestly, this length just gets in the way at times. So not something that I'm a huge fan of. One of the things I actually do really like is this right angle connector. I got used to it after a while. I didn't think I would initially, but there you are. So that kind of jumps in, and my friend was listening to a little Breaking Benjamin earlier, and then it launches immediately into the app. It sets it to a preset and gives you the option to create a patient or scan. It's got the 5 presets there for the phased array probe, and other probes have different presets built in. Swipe from the side to get the menu, which I think personally a really nice feature. And then you can set your exam settings. You can check out your old saved exams. I've got a couple on here, but not a ton since I last purged. And you can do some things with all that stuff. Here's the really nice feature is the launch reacts. I'm locked out currently from my account. I let a friend use it, and I haven't gotten a chance to reset the password on this, but that's a super nice feature that they loaded into the app a couple of months ago, almost a year ago now, where you can live stream your ultrasound images over the internet while FaceTiming or video chatting or whatever you do. And that allows for a lot of telemedicine. Now, I think that the major application for that is going to be education, as demonstrated by my efforts with the Streambox, which you can see here. If you have an interest, jaffamd.com is where I posted some of the instructions there. I posted all of it on GitHub, so you can feel free to check that out. Make your own device, live stream ultrasound from any ultrasound machine that's currently available that has a video output port, whether that's S-video or composite video, or I've got a fix that I'll post about for devices that have only VGA output where you need a signal converter. So unfortunately that takes an extra step, but it's as it turns out not as hard as I thought. And I finally have a couple of boxes that are up and running, and so check it out if you have any interest in telemedicine or teleeducation. All right, so going back to this, let's get some demo images and just kind of compare the two to see how it looks. So always helpful to have gel on you at all times, as I always do in my private stash, my white coat pocket, as all my residents are familiar. Bummer y'all aren't going to see me take my shirt off today. Sorry, or at least not all the way. So let's get a little bit of oil in there. All right. So first up, Lumify with the cardiac preset. Even actually, we'll go ahead and switch to the abdominal preset, which is just a swipe away, which is actually not bad. And saving a loop, just kind of taking a look here. You can actually see the abdominal setting is not honestly that bad. I mean, you can see pretty good detail in my kidney. You can see the liver echo texture coming through there. We can the depth and the gain set controllers are a little bit cumbersome. I always forget which direction to go. It's a little bit more intuitive on the IQ, which we'll see in a second. But overall, like really, I mean, not bad images. I mean, the image quality is pretty good on this abdominal setting. And what you'll see in a second is I'm going to switch it over to the cardiac setting, and you can see it's, I would say, phenomenal imaging quality for the cardiac preset. Give you a nice look at my subxiphoid here. I mean, there's just really crisp frame rates, really nice. I mean, even in the abdomen, I'm prone to using this particular preset even with abdominal scanning, because it's just so crisp and such a high frame rate. It's really nice. I mean, you can see my Morrison's pouch here, really crisp, and barely getting any shadowing from my ribs even, which is super nice. That tight footprint of a phased array probe is always really nice. And there you can see my fairly collapsible IVC. Good thing I'm not fluid overloaded. certainly no high filling pressures there. Right on. Okay, so switching over, I'm going to leave some of that gel on there so I waste not, want not. And we'll switch over to the butterfly. So, staying on the cardiac setting, I believe I have the cardiac deep currently, so I'm going to switch to the cardiac and select it. So 1 or 2 more clicks, not the worst thing in the world. Probe marker there. I've already set it, so we're going to start a clip. And the nice thing about this is this clip will just run and run forever. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that the image quality is, I would say, a fair bit grainier. I still get really, really nice, admittedly, pictures of my heart. It's always difficult scanning upside down and backwards, but I will take it, the hit there. That's pretty hard to argue with. Like, even on a small screen, it's compelling. Unfortunately, I can't change anything about this, I've just noticed, while I'm actually getting the clip. So we can change the settings a little bit, improve the gain. As far as I know, yeah, once you're in here, you can actually hit this button and you can change the near field and the far field gain and the mid gain independently, which is a nice feature. I don't think that I've seen any feature like that so far for the Lumify, but this is actually a really nice feature of it. So I can show you a little bit of a more optimized image, just something that's for the gamut of this screen. And then looking at my abdomen, honestly, it's not terrible imaging by any stretch. A little more of a closer to a right upper quadrant view there. And you can see getting between my ribs, I'm losing a little bit of gel here, but overall the image quality is very good. Now, if I switch over to the abdominal preset, let's see how that looks actually. And there's, you'll notice a little bit of a decrease in the frame rate. Not a whole lot, but it's noticeable to at least the human eye. But you get significantly sharper spatial differentiation, which, is always, in general, the trade-off that you notice with most machines that are out there. Certainly some things like the Sonosite M turbos that I use, for the most part, you'll see that trade-off very commonly. But overall, this is super, super sharp. I really like this setting. Now, here's where the IQ gets really, really good, is actually if you switch over to something like this soft tissue or small organs. And now we're going to see, look at that. That near field imaging is super, super crisp. This is a game changer. And to have this flexibility and this much variation in what you can do with a probe, without changing the probe, without changing the device you're using, without having to, spend that task switching is milliseconds. Something I certainly cannot do with the Lumify, can't do with any of my existing probes, and that's where this probe really, really shines at this stage. So ultimately, the IQ, I would say, is not necessarily the best probe for one particular imaging type. It's not the best cardiac imaging. I would say Philips still holds the market in there. The Claire's that I've used a couple of times has had pretty decent imaging. The image quality is much better than I would have expected, but ultimately it's a very ergonomically difficult device to use. It's bulky, it's heavy, it doesn't have the advantages of having like a traditional probe shape, and so that is limiting to a large degree. The Philips is nice and light, but feels a little bit almost specious. The IQ, like I said, kind of feels very, it's a very solid device that'll take some getting used to, but I don't think there's going to be a huge issue there. So ultimately, not the best probe for any particular thing, but absolutely the best probe for everything, if that's what you're going for. So for the flexibility of something like this, for an emergency doc, for an intensivist, for anybody in that field, where you're just going to be using this for all kinds of different indications, this is definitely going to be a powerhouse probe. Just as a little aside, I've got the charging plate here, and just for a little bit of delight, immediately starts charging, turns to blue. Such a beautiful image. So that's a nice little touch right there. It makes the whole thing just feel a little bit more delightful. Anyway, those are my first impressions. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have questions, hit me up on Twitter, Jaffa _MD. find me on Facebook. Start a conversation. Let's talk some POCUS. All right. I'll see y'all in the next video. Laters.